right, Vanessa, so tell me about how you think your lesson went.
I thought it was very successful. Damien really was able to apply his knowledge of vowels and consonants and long vowels and short vowels to be able to look at this, you know, syllabication rule. Am I saying that right? Syllabication rule, syllable juncture, and be able to decode the words. And sometimes they were familiar to him and sometimes they weren't familiar. So I thought that was successful. I thought it also opened up a good conversation for us about how the words were built, because he was curious about, oh, well, you know, this has a closed syllable next to it. And then I just, you know, briefly mentioned that, well, actually any syllable type could come after your open syllable in your VCCV words. So yes, and he was really good at remembering what I expected from him. And I wanted him to first mark the vowels, and then mark the vowel, consonant, vowel, mark it as a long vowel, scoop it. So that was good, and I think that definitely helped him read the words accurately. And then by the time he got to the sentences and the controlled passage, there was no issues.
Yeah.
And on the sort, too. So then I was wondering, maybe I should have done something a little bit more challenging, but I felt like I needed to have a starting place to talk about different, you know, word types. I didn't want to jump into words that aren't going to be familiar to him before we even talked about, or like, you know, talked about a simple rule for figuring out a word, and before we even talked about long vowels and short vowels.
Okay. Good. I'll skip right to that. I was going to ask you about that. We'll start with, I'll take it back. So, do you think Damien met his objectives?
Oh, yes. So, yep, he was able to decode the words. He didn't even really need any teacher scaffolding. For the first word that he read, I think he needed, tripod.
Yes.
I think he said tripod at first, so that must have been an unknown, probably, vocabulary word to him. So, yep, he met that first goal, and then I don't think he made any errors during the other things. So, yes. So, I expected him to be pretty accurate, and he was.
Okay. And that's what I was going to bring up, the data. There was no, you didn't need, during the independent practice, the tripod was during the guided practice, and during the independent practice, with the word list, moving into sentences, moving into text, he was completely independent. There wasn't any prompts needed there.
Okay.
So, obviously we see, you know, you've mentioned that he was successful, met his objectives. Let's kind of talk about, for him, marking for a moment. About, you had him mark with the pen, you know.
Right.
Tell me your thoughts about that. How did that work, or?
I thought it was successful. The reason I have had him do that is if you're not sure of if he wasn't sure of how to even start figuring out the word, that gives you like that, like, it's like your structure that you know, okay, I'm not sure about this word, but hey, I see a vowel. Oh, I see a consonant, I see another vowel. Then I can figure out this word. So that's the reason why I had him do that.
The marking. He marked, let me think about this. With the marking, he continued.
Right.
Can you talk at all about, as you move through the different parts of your lesson, about him continuing to mark and its effect on kind of his reading?
So when he was reading the Rover story, right, so that wasn't what I didn't expect him to mark anything. I think, you know, he wanted to be active and do something, so it did slow down his, like, fluency when he stopped and marked. And he marked a word that actually follows, you know, like the vowel consonant E, magic E rule, instead of a VCV word. So actually I thought it was like an okay mistake to make, because then I pointed out, I thought it was a good time to clarify VCV words have 2 syllables.
Yes.
VCE words or magic E words have one syllable.
Mm-hmm.
So it was good clarification. So I guess it was good he made that mistake.
Yes.
But the ultimate goal is that, when you're in a classroom and you're reading a text, I mean, you're not going to pull out a pencil and mark the word, but it's just giving you that, like that scaffolding that maybe you're going to trace the word and try to find it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just giving the kids, or Damien, just something that he can use if he comes to an unknown word.
So kind of with that is, like you said, in the classroom is, you're using it as a scaffolding piece, and the classroom is to read without it. Do you think, say if you were to teach this lesson again, you would change anything about marking?
I probably, once I saw that he was able to do it on maybe the first 2 words, I maybe would only have him do it if he was struggling with the word.
Good.
So I wouldn't necessarily spend all the time doing all 10 words.
Yeah. Very good. Tell me about the text level for Rover. So once he read the word list, he read the sentences wonderfully, and then you had him read that text. What was that, an instructional level? Kind of tell me a little bit about your choice for that.
It's a controlled passage that, focuses on that syllable type. So, it doesn't, throw harder words in there, unfamiliar syllable types in there. So it's hard to say what exact, grade level or guided reading level it was. I would say it's probably somewhere at a kindergarten, first grade level, which is his instructional level for comprehension.
Okay.
I think he can decode at a higher level.
Yes.
But that his understanding breaks down at the higher level. So this was just really to get that fluency with the VCV words, and to, and comprehend the story, that the controlled passage at the same time.
Okay.
In a context.
Yeah. Do you think, is there a way you could have challenged him a little bit differently, talking into that?
It's just difficult because the purpose of the lesson was really an introduction to, syllable junctures.
Yes.
I guess I could have had things ready that go to another syllable type or another, rule, since this one was so easy. But, I mean, it's hard to plan that in advance. So I guess I could have had more in there ready to go if this was too easy, but I just figured this was like a starting point.
Yeah, and I think that's great to actually start with that. I mean, it was a text that he was able to easily connect your objective to actually reading the passage and was so successful with it. You had mentioned about coming into the lesson knowing that it was easy for him, and kind of just, is there a way to challenge him?
I mean, I guess I could have pulled out the novel that we were using and almost done a word, as we're reading it, do it as a word hunt. Did you find any VCV words in there? That would have been a little bit harder since that text is not controlled for, other syllable types or.
And I think that would be great.
Okay.
That would be great. Is you just told me a way that you can connect and give him that challenge. The lesson, he was very successful and seems easy in pulling out the chapter book or whatever text you're working on to provide that next level. I think
that's a good idea.
Would be a great idea. At the end of the lesson, you brought in those fluency goals. Tell me a little bit about that.
Okay. So he created those fluency goals for himself, our first week of tutoring. So I just wanted to show him that, everything that, our word work is connected to our fluency work, connected to our comprehension work, because you need all those skills to be a good reader. So I always end fluency with him reading at a too quick rate and causing him to make errors, usually with skipping words, is, that's important. So anything you read, no matter if it's super easy to you, you should apply your fluency.
Yeah, I love that you connected that. And so tell me about his response. You asked him about his fluency goals and how he did. What did Let's talk about his responsibility.
I'm trying to remember how he said he did.
He said he needed to work on goals numbers 1 and 2.
Okay.
And he thought he did 3, but then he kind of said all of them. Just in reflecting on that, like, how do you think his fluency was for reading Rover?
In general, he usually always rates himself as meeting his goals, even if I don't agree. So that's something in general for the fluency. I'm still trying to help him see what is a too fast rate.
Yeah.
If I show him or have him track his errors, he's able to easily say, oh, I made this error, or I skipped a lot of words. But with the rate, that's really hard for him to tell, am I reading too fast or not. So we've been recording.
Okay.
I've been modeling reading at a too fast rate. It still is a struggle. Yes, it's still. So I am looking for more ways that I can help him self-identify or self-assess. Like, oh, yeah, that was way too fast. I didn't understand anything that I read because I read way too quickly.
Okay, I'm going to bridge right into that because that's awesome. So he does have a problem identifying his own fluency rate. How is it with, I don't know if you mentioned this or not, how is it with when you model it? Is he able to identify your rate?
Yeah, he tells me when I'm reading too fast. But when I am modeling reading at what I think is an appropriate rate, he thinks I'm reading too slow.
Okay.
So he wants everything to be at a quick pace. That's how he, that's how he works. So that's one thing I'm trying to get him to see is that, no, it's, he has rated me. He rated me today and said that I really never read at the right rate. I was only too fast at the beginning and then I was too slow the rest of the time.
Funny.
So it is funny.
So kind of with that is maybe instead of focusing on you or him specifically, is there any other resources?
I guess I could probably pool a recording of, in either an audio book or I know I can get recordings of Scholastic articles on their website. Yeah. And we could listen to somebody else read.
I wonder if he would judge it differently without having that personal connection. Yeah. That'd be interesting to see.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
So anything else? Any other concerns? I mean, I think we've really kind of touched upon, you mentioned about bringing in to challenge him, bringing in that other text that you're working on to connect the syllables and syllable work, I should say, and then also working on that fluency piece. Is there anything else going on with your 2D?
Well, I'm trying to, in my word work, make sure that to try to connect meaning to the word, because vocabulary knowledge is another thing that will help him improve his comprehension the more knowledge he has of words. And
do you have any ideas going for that yet? Or
working on prefixes and suffixes and the meanings of those words with the prefixes and suffixes added. So it's including the structural elements of language and meaning, and then hopefully relating it to relating to words in context, like the kind of vocabulary words from the novel that we're reading.
Okay. Have you started the prefix and suffix work? And how's he doing with that?
Pretty good. If there are words that are unfamiliar to his, his speaking and listening vocabulary, it's hard for him to make the meaning of them. So trying to bring in some other things to help with that, like remarkable today.
Okay.
We were working on a bull, and I said that, remarkable you're not able to remark. That's not the meaning of remarkable. So then we, discussed that, used it in a sentence. Trying to think. But other than that, hope, we did full and list. Hopeful, hopeless. So he was able to, to find the difference between those words and explain those.
Kind of just bridging that, how does he do with base words?
Well, he knows that concept, he's a little unsure of, he just calls it, the word. So we're still working on the concept of this is the base word. Okay. And you add a prefix or suffix to it.
Any thoughts kind of in the future of
what I'm going to work on for that? So I'm,
kind of, because it seems like with hope, you kind of said the less than the full, he's doing okay with.
Right. So those, and if the word has like a straight meaning, if the base word plus the suffix has just like a straight meaning,
yes,
he's better. But when it has a more implied meaning, so maybe we could do word ladders with like synonyms that show different, levels of, comparison. Something like that.
No, I think you absolutely have some great ideas, and just really looking at how the structure of the word and different meanings of it will really help him.
Okay.
Nice job.
Thank you.